rise. Sinister designs are there to set afloat a narrative by free fall of information.
Truth has come out. They don't tolerate the truth.
Kanchan Gupta, Senior Advisor in Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, is joining me live. Kanchan Gupta, really appreciate your time. Do you see this series of documentary as the Vice President highlights, some kind of information warfare?
Well, the fact is that the emergent new information order, which replaces the earlier order, is largely based on narrative building and manipulating global affairs through narratives. And a big part of that narrative building is the disinformation campaign that happens again and again, and of which this country is also a victim. So I would sort of place BBC in that category of one of the many instruments of disinformation, dissemination, and they do it with a certain degree of finesse so that it looks like some great news or current affairs program. But it is not as innocent as it seems to be.
Okay.
So that's how I would put it.
Okay. Mr. Kanchan Gupta, BBC is a state broadcaster. Is there a need for a diplomatic outreach to the British government over such content?
Well, the British Broadcasting Corporation is Britain's state broadcaster, public broadcaster. It is funded by tax money of Britain. And it operates under a royal charter. But the British government itself keeps on insisting that it is an independent organization and they have no neither control nor they just don't have any control over it. So to reach out to the British government over this, I doubt if that would be much useful. But Maria, you must keep in mind that here in India, BBC operates as a registered foreign company. I don't know how many of you know that there are two entities. One is the BBC World is within parenthesis, BBC World India Private Limited. And the subsidiary of that is BBC Global News India Private Limited. So we are not dealing with news outfit, qua news outfit, but we are dealing with registered foreign companies over here. And the ongoing tax surveys have to be seen in that context.
Yes, that brings me to my next question about the tax surveys. Because the tax surveys are continuing to happen, the opposition says, if anything, this is an example of the government muzzling press. There has been a press release that has been put out by the Press Council of India as well. How is the government viewing it? Particularly because, if this is the reaction that is coming, the chain of events is being built that you may say that it has nothing to do with the editorial decision vis-a-vis the BBC documentary, but the fact that these surveys, which are being seen as raids, are happening at this time, it obviously is linked to their editorial policy.
Maria, you are welcome to sort of believe that the two are linked, but I would only try to disabuse your mind as well as the minds of your viewers that there is absolutely no link between BBC's editorial output and the income tax department's surveys. There is no link. The BBC has been served with several notices preceding the telecast of its so-called two-part documentary, and the survey follows those notices because the BBC has either not been able to come up with convincing responses, or they have refused or decided not to respond. So, the two, to sort of interlink the two would not be a very fair approach. As far as statements being issued by various organizations, they are welcome to do that. But I would just point out that when Arnab Goswami was being harassed, he was put in jail, he was being investigated in a cooked up case by the Maharashtra government. None of these organizations, whether it is the Press Council or the Editors Guild or the Press Club of India, they just kept quiet. In fact, their members were cheering from the sidelines. So you don't have, and as we all know, that the entire case has now fallen apart, and it has been found to be a fraudulent action by the government. Yet none of these organizations and none of the Indian media orgs, they had the gumption to stand up and take a stand, because at good, bad, ugly, he is one of your own.
Okay, so you're making the point that why didn't the same bodies stand for one of their own?
No, here everybody is coming out in defense of a foreign news organization which is being investigated for tax issues. I mean, let me also inform you and inform your viewers that there was a huge scandal in Britain not too long ago when the tax authorities of Britain investigated BBC and found that they were scamming the government of Britain. They were offloading employees as freelancers. They were paying into front companies opened by these freelance journalists so that BBC would not have to pay insurance tax. And it was as much as 12 million pounds.
Okay. Kanjan Gupta,
we don't take these things into account.
Kanjan Gupta, since you're talking
about... So was that also an attack on the BBC's editorial freedom?
Okay. Since you're essentially talking about non-compliance under transfer policing rules and these are tax surveys, I want to understand from you, sir, is the government looking at some kind of review of the BBC in general? Because there is the larger sense, as you have been highlighting, that the content that is being produced and disseminated by the BBC is anti-India.
I have a list of 60. I have with me right now, Maria, a list of 60 stories which the BBC has put out on, about, related to India. And each of the story is flawed. I mean, the facts are wrong, the bias is obvious, and the whole purpose is to attack the government. I mean, what has this government done to BBC for it to be so vicious? You look at the reports of BBC Hindi, the kind of stories they carry, the sort of language they use. It's all very fine to say that, oh, it's clickbait journalism. But why should we take it? And when I say why should we, I don't mean the government alone. I mean, rare is the media house which would come out openly in support of the government and any government. But nobody takes this kind of attitude. Nobody takes this kind of editorial position. I mean, let's not forget the BBC is a habitual offender. They had a documentary on Kashmir in which they used footage of Russian tanks in Chechnya to say that the government of India has deployed tanks in Kashmir to put down rebellion in Kashmir. And you want the government to take them seriously? I'm sorry, the government has no time for them. The government acted in the correct manner as far as the documentary was concerned. The CBDT is acting in a perfectly legal manner. It is following due process of law. It is a sovereign authority of the government, and they are perfectly at liberty to investigate tax issues. And once again, I will remind you, this is not the first time the BBC has got entangled in tax affairs. In 2009, 2010, also they were CBDT had asked them to revise their income tax returns because they had been found to have suppressed details. So it continues, and several notices have had no effect, and these notices precede the airing of the documentary.
Okay, since you are trying to say that there's no link between the two, my last question to you is, because it's all of these developments are happening in the year that India has the G20 presidency, is the government sensing some larger design against these news?
No, I couldn't get your question, please.
Because this is the year of G20 presidency of India, is there some larger design to paint the government, its leaders like Prime Minister Modi, and that is the reason why these documentaries are being brought out by likes of BBC? Because even the articles that are published by New York Times, others, are very much seen as anti-India, that the India development story or the India growth story is often undermined.
Oh, well, you are right. I mean, and I think as the year progresses, and I use my words with great consideration, as the year progresses, White West media will get increasingly vicious. Now, you mentioned about BBC being a public broadcaster. Similarly, DW is the public broadcaster of Germany. It is paid for its operations by the government of Germany, which of course uses tax money to pay them. Now, if you see a series of reports starting early this year by DW, specifically targeting the government of India, specifically targeting the India growth story. In January, they put out a story predicting that 2023 will be a year of great Hindu-Muslim violence and bloodletting and bloodshed.
That's right.
They find one DJ in some village and they spin an entire story on how India is full of anti-Muslim music. I mean, this is the kind of reportage which is happening. Nobody has bothered to look at the finer details. The Financial Times has a story that unlike other countries, India does not have a digital payment system. I mean, it's the Financial Times.
Yes. And that's factually incorrect.
And it runs a story that India does not have a digital payment system where retail payments can be made digitally. Now, who is to stop them? If we sort of try and tell them that, look, this is wrong, all you people will stand up and say, oh, freedom of the press, freedom of the press. Freedom of the press does not mean you controvert the truth. Freedom of the press does not mean that you use your platform for biased propaganda.
All right.
Freedom of the press does not mean putting out fake news.
All right. Kanjan Gupta.
And definitely freedom of the press does not mean that you tag yourself to a global narrative building project to damn India.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time, Kanchan Gupta.
So
I'm putting the government's view before us. Let me bring in my guests. Rashmi Samant, former president at the University of Oxford. Avni Bansal is the Congress spokesperson, and Anil Trigunayath is a former diplomat and one of the signatories against the BBC documentary. Ms. Samant, I'm going to begin with you. Is it time for us to see the BBC and other foreign broadcasters as tools of statecraft of other nations?
I think, yes, it is about time, because these are public funded news entities which are run by governments and taxpayers' money in different countries. So anything that they say definitely have an underlying agenda that definitely proposes and progresses the interests of the host countries, which is the United Kingdom in this place. And I think due to the shared history between the United Kingdom and India, it's about time that we are very wary of what comes out from there and the kind of information that is dispersed, because misinformation, as we know, is the new form of warfare. Data is the new oil, and we live in times when one doctored post on social media can lead to riots and fights on street. So unfortunately, in these times, it's extremely important for us to be wary of these things and to put a foot down when necessary, to say no to these things, because as a democracy, we need to be wary of our own internal security. And also, I think it's quite telling, because elections are next year, and having these kinds of documentaries come up right before elections, this is quite telling about intentions to meddle in the due democratic
and
process.
also, Rashmi, this documentary coming in a year which is so significant for India, because it is the G20 year of presidency. Avni Bansal, despite the judicial clean chits from the top court, is the Congress party and other parties in opposition guilty of falling prey to this propaganda?
See, let's get a couple of things straight, okay? The first thing is, it doesn't matter where the information comes from. If we are true to our country, our first duty should be to investigate what's being said. So what we are doing, and what the BJP and the government seem to do, is a classic case of shoot the messenger. Don't care about what they're saying as long as it is critical, and thereby muzzle free speech. My second point is that BBC is not a new entity. It's not a new player. And we all know that it is a national broadcaster. So it has a certain repute. My point is,
yes, and the same BBC was banned by Mrs. Gandhi, and it is the same BBC against which the Congress MPs had written a letter.
Allow me my 2 minutes to make my points.
Yes, please.
I'm saying BBC is not a new entity. Everybody knows what they've been doing, the kind of reports they've been doing. Why this tax rate now? I mean, who are we fooling if we are saying, well, it has absolutely no connection whatsoever with what BBC has come out with? And the third point, and that is something very unfortunate, is that the Vice President of India, I mean, is the second biggest constitutional office in the country, right? Without looking into what's being said, without asking for investigation, if the Vice President of India also seems to be towing a completely political line, it is deeply concerning. I think in a free and fair country, what should matter is there any truth to this information? Should we investigate this? Rather than saying, well, there is some sort of a grand sinister plan. And if there is a grand sinister plan, I challenge the BJP, I challenge the government of the day to name what that sinister plan is. If you're saying, well, everybody is kind of up against you and they somehow want to do something bad to the country, but you have absolutely no idea of what is this grand plan. Because in November, just last year, when Mr. Modi goes to meet Mr. Rishi Sunak, or for example, when Mr. Modi goes to America and celebrates Howdy Modi, there is this complete flip game by the BJP where they seem to be celebrating it like nothing else. But the moment there is something critical that comes from offshore, our sudden question is not what is being said, let's debate into it. Is there truth to it?
What will you debate? What will you debate if a documentary is factually incorrect? If the basic rules of journalism is not being followed by the BBC and their own MPs are saying that this is poor journalism, badly researched and completely unjustified, then I'm surprised that why are politicians in India are not realizing it. Anil Trigunayath, should we then wake up to this toolkit affair? Because this is evident that these may be friendly nations, and Rishi Sunak may have very intelligently said that his government doesn't really believe in it, they have dismissed it, but is that enough?
Well, Maria, in the first place, I must say that I'm a firm believer that the media
is the fourth estate. But with that comes tremendous responsibility.
Yes.
Because that is not a responsibility to a government, but to the society per se. This BBC, and as Kanchan had also mentioned, and I quite agree with his arguments, basically the BBC and the international media has been, especially the Western media, has always picked up the stories that are inimical to India's interests, shows in poor light. And I remember when I was posted in New York, at that time, of course, the Congress government was in power. And when there was a visit of Prime Minister Narasimha Rao, I asked my friends in the New York Times and others that there are so many good things happening in India. Why aren't you publishing? So they said, good news is no news. And unless there is a friction, it's not the news. So they salivate under these kind of things and they create this, unfortunately. And it has become far more inimical today in this age of social media. I'm not talking about, but what Mr. Dhankar has said, the Vice President, is not really directly telling about what is the sinister plan or what is there. What is he saying? And I agree with him totally in this, that India, irrespective of which government is in power, does not have a very proper media strategy. Because see, these are the kind of things that happen. So singular unifocal narratives are clearly evident. And if you're not prepared for it, your reputation will go down in no time. And they rake up issues that are already buried and dead.
Then Mr. Trigunayat, are you of the opinion that as far as the domestic politics is concerned, or the politicians in India are concerned, they should be speaking in one voice? Because if anything, it is a UK MP who has criticized the BBC, saying that this documentary is completely exaggerated and it's a hatchet job. So you have Mr. Bob Blackman saying it, but as far as the Indian politicians are concerned, they know about the Supreme Court clean chit. They know that the entire period of investigation, at that time it was the UPA government which was at power, and still we are hearing this kind of support for this documentary.
Well, Maria, I cannot comment on politicians because that's not in my ilk. But at the same thing, I would like to tell you one thing. One of my bosses used to say that if two people agree, one is unnecessary. So this is perhaps the job of the media and the politicians.
Okay. Avni Bansal, you know, we have often seen, and in recent times, that when it comes to issues of international importance and where it is about India, we have as a nation have emerged, and the political class has also made an effort to send a joint message. This is the year of G20 presidency. Can the political class unite and not make it about BJP versus Congress, BJP versus Aam Aadmi Party, BJP versus whosoever?
I think, Maria, the narrative that your question is putting is a rather simple one, which is to say that everything that comes on any issue, let's all be united.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm talking about this one in particular.
Ask for a freedom of, a country where the freedom of speech and expression is celebrated and the freedom of press is not muzzled, whether that be of the Indian press or be that of the international press. That's something that's enshrined in the Indian constitution. If anything, I think BJP should stop making it a political issue by suggesting some sort of a grand sinister plans by everybody who seems to be raising any critical voice against them. And I think the truth of the day is, let's look into what is this matter about? What is this documentary? Shutting something down suggests that there may be some potential truth. And by raising questions about BBC, whether they have a tax case going on against them, which is also by the government, and saying, here, listen, they all want to in some way defame the country, portray India in a bad light, to my mind is selling to the people a very simple and a shallow and honestly a false narrative. The position rather should be, we are a country that protects freedom of speech and expression. We are the president of G20. We have earned our place to be here and we know how to defend it. And that means if any criticism comes in, we have investigating authorities. We have people who can look into this and come up with a report. We're not just going to say, no, this documentary is not going to be circulated. No, who is the BBC? Come on, let's tax the BBC office. So our position tells a lot about ourselves. And I really hope that in coming times to come, and in this year in particular, BJP will take a stand, which is really, more likely to be and justifiable of India's presidency, rather than showing us like a backward country where democracy is not really valued.
Okay, Mr. Samant, is that the way to look at it? That perhaps this entire issue should have been ignored, overlooked, because for the country we are seeing the BJP being led by Mr. Modi win election after election. So for the people of India, we know they are going with the Supreme Court verdict. Why give it so much of significance?
Well, I think it's rather disappointing that the Congress party respects a foreign news media over the Supreme Court of India, which gave its judgment when Congress was in power in the center. So that being said, I think all Indians deserve to have clarity and its story through investigations of its own entity and the verdict of the Supreme Court. And it does not have to be told by, the former defense secretary, foreign secretary of the UK, Jack Straw, about what we need to think about our domestic issues. We are still not their colonial slaves who need to be investigated by external agencies. Our Supreme Court is very well capable of doing it. Number two, BBC is a repeat tax offender, and this is not something I'm saying. This is what the UK government says, and it's something the UK government has fined the BBC for. I think we shouldn't stop our due diligence and process within India just because they came out with a documentary against the country just so that we can look good, or we don't look thin-skinned. I think that's not at all a reason to stop going after tax offenders. Tax offenders need to be taken to the cleaners, and this is the way to go for it. And IT surveys happen only after multiple notices are served.
Okay.
So I think there's a clear history of the BBC India being served notices much before this documentary came out, and did not make headlines because there was no propaganda that could suggest that the government was purely going after BBC for the sake of it. So I think we need to look into a little bit of a broader context and look at the tax evading history that the BBC has in general before jumping the wagon and blaming governments. And I think this is the least that the opposition party in India currently can do.
All right, Rashmi, thank you so much for your time. Anil Trigunath and Ms. Anavni Bansal. The question also is, do we still suffer with the mindset of treating foreign narratives with sanctity? Shifting focus to our second debate now. A DMK councillor named Chinnaswamy and his son have now been arrested for killing an army Jawan named Prabhu in Tamil Nadu's Krishnagiri district. So far, a total of 9 arrests have been made. As per the police, there was an argument between the soldier and the DMK councillor over the washing of clothes at a public tank, after which Chinnaswamy and his gang assaulted the soldier and his brother on February 8th. Prabhu succumbed to his injuries at the hospital on February 14th, and the police converted the assault case into a case of murder. The DMK councillor was absconding before his arrest. In fact, the deceased Jawan's sister-in-law told CNN News 18 that Prabhu was beaten with iron rods and sticks, and added that Chinnaswamy said that even a Jawan has no power in his area. He said that even a Jawan has no power in his area. So he was behaving like a goon and he acted like a goon. She says Prabhu was all set to go to Srinagar on a mission. He had completed training in Bengaluru before he returned home. The DMK has so far not sacked or suspended this councillor, and in fact has called this entire incident a small altercation that escalated, which led to the Jawan's death. The BJP has trained its guns at the DMK government, accusing it of being anti-army and spreading anarchy in the state. The big question remains, will the DMK government give justice to Prabhu's family?
It is not because of the BJP. There was a murder and the police had taken an action. And that murder is not a war. It is about a local issue.
The kind of importance it has brought to the army in the state of Tamil Nadu by the national media. Now suddenly DMK is on the back foot trying to say all kinds of nonsensical things.
And joining us on the show and speaking out for the first time is Punita, the wife of Army Jawan Prabhu. She's joining me from Krishnagiri. I can also see Prakash, their family friend, who will help us communicate with her. प्रकाश जी, पुनीता से सबसे पहला सवाल मेरा ये होगा कि उनको कब पता चला कि इतनी बड़ी घटना हो गई है?
என்ன நடந்தது?
காலையில போய் கும்பாபிஷேகத்துக்கு வச்சுட்டு நாளைக்கலாம் அப்படின்ட்டு வீட்டு பக்கம் இருக்கிற சின்டெக்ஸ் தண்ணி தொட்டியான அழைக்கிறதுக்கு போனாங்க. கவுன்சிலர் வந்து எங்க மூத்தார் நேம் மென்ஷன் பண்ணி எங்க துணி அலசக்கூடாது அப்படின்னு சொன்னாங்க. சரி நாங்க அலசறதில்ல அப்படின்னுட்டு எங்க மூத்தார் தனியா விலகி வந்துட்டாங்க. விலகி வந்து அவங்க அம்மா கிட்ட அவங்க நாம மட்டுமா துணி அலசுறோம், ஊர்ல இருக்கிறவங்க எல்லாருமே தானே சேர்ந்து அலசுறாங்க, அவங்க செய்யாத வேலை நம்ம செஞ்சுட்டோமா, குளிக்கிறது முதல் கொண்டு அவங்க துணி துவைக்கிறது கொண்டு அவங்க வீட்டுல இருக்கிற சாமானம் எல்லாமே எடுத்து வந்து இங்க தானே கழுவுறாங்க, நாம என்ன அவ்வளவு கேவலமா செய்யறோமா அப்படின்ட்டு அவங்க அம்மா கிட்ட செப்பரேட்டா பேசிட்டு இருந்தாங்க. அவங்க அம்மா கிட்ட பேசிட்டு இருக்கவே சந்தில போனவங்க செருப்பு எடுத்துட்டு ஓடி வந்து அடிச்சாங்க, கையெடுத்து அடிச்சாங்க. அப்புறம் பக்கத்துல இருந்தவங்க எல்லாம் சேர்ந்து பேச்சுவார்த்தையால விலகி விட்டுட்டாங்க. சின்ன பிரச்சனை எதுக்கு பெருசாகிறீங்க, நாளைக்கு ஊர்ல திருவிழா இருக்குது இல்ல, வேணா சண்டை போடாதீங்க அப்படின்னாங்க. மறுபடியும் அவங்க ரிலேஷன் எல்லாரும் சேர்ந்து பேசி வச்சு பிளான் பண்ணி இரும்பு லாடு, மரத்துண்டு, கத்தி எல்லாம் சேர்த்து எடுத்துட்டு வந்து எங்க வீட்டுக்கார அடிச்சு சாகடிச்சிட்டாங்க. அவங்க மகன் குருசூரியமூர்த்தி போலீஸ்கார் ஒருத்தர் இருக்காங்க, அவங்க எங்க வீட்டுக்கார கீழே தள்ளி கழுத்துல காலை வச்சு சாகடிச்சாங்க. எங்க வீட்டுக்கார உயிர் இல்லாம செத்துட்டாங்க.
जी मैडम, ये ना बोल रहे हैं जो घर का बाहर जो सिंटेक्स है वहाँ पे कपड़ा धुलाई करने के लिए गया था, जो काउंसलर ने सिन्नस्वामी उसने आके मना किया हुआ। जब उन्होंने बोला मंदिर का फंक्शन है इसलिए आज एक दिन के लिए हम धुलाई कर रहे हैं, ऐसे बात किया। लेकिन इनके बीच में बात करके जो छोटा मत बड़ा बात हो गया, गाँव वाला ने पूरा मिलकर उसको फैसला करके भेज दिया। फिर इसने पूरा घर में चले गया। दूसरा दिन शाम को उस दिन शाम के वो उसने क्या किया, 10 बंदा लेके के इसको हस्बैंड को पूरा मिलके मार के इसको मर्डर किया हुआ है। और इसका बड़ा भाई है, ये प्रभाकर का वाइफ है, प्रिया है। इसने इनका ये भी फौज में, वो भी छुट्टी में, दोनों भाई इकट्ठा छुट्टी आया है गाँव के फंक्शन करके। इसलिए वो दोनों भाई मिलके उसने उनके पास बात करने के लिए गया था। तब उन 10 बंदा मिलके पूरा इनका दोनों को मारा हुआ है। इसका भी ज्यादा चोट है, अभी हॉस्पिटल में एडमिट है। अभी उसके पिताजी की भी चोट है, वो भी टीचिंग किया हुआ है सिर में। यही बोल रहा हूँ।
पुनीता, जब आपको पता चला घटना के बारे में तो क्या आप पुलिस के पास गई, हॉस्पिटल गई, आपने क्या किया?
நீங்க அன்னைக்கு நடந்த பிரச்சனை போலீஸ்ல போய் கம்ப்ளைண்ட் கொடுத்தீங்களா? என்ன சொன்னாங்க?
சார் எஃப்ஐஆர் எழுதி போனாங்க ஹாஸ்பிடல், காவேரி ஹாஸ்பிடல் வந்து எஃப்ஐஆர் எழுதி போனாங்க.
என்ன நடந்துச்சுன்னு விசாரிச்சாங்களா? जी मैडम, इन्होंने उस दिन जाके पुलिस स्टेशन में कंप्लेंट किया हुआ है। कंप्लेंट देने के बाद वहां से पुलिस आया, इनको पूरा इंक्वायरी किया हुआ है। इंक्वायरी करके इन्होंने उस दिन एफआईआर बुकिंग किया है। एफआईआर बुकिंग करने के बाद 6 बंदा को उस दिन अरेस्ट किया हुआ है। तो 3 बंदा मिला नहीं, कहीं भाग गया था, और 3 बंदा को कल अरेस्ट किया है, और 9 बंदा अभी धर्मपुरी जेल में अरेस्ट है।
जी, इन्वेस्टिगेशन पर बहुत सारे सवाल उठ रहे हैं और लाजमी है क्योंकि डीएमके इज अंडर द स्कैनर। पुनीता, प्रभु की पोस्टिंग कहाँ थी? वो कितने दिनों के लिए घर आए थे?
जी मैम, जी எத்தனை நாள் லீவ் வந்தாங்கம்மா? எங்க அவங்க இப்போ ஒர்க் பண்றாங்க?
இப்போ மத்திய பிரதேசம்ல முடிச்சிட்டு போஸ்டிங் வந்தாங்க. நாயக் கோர்ஸ் பண்றதுக்கு பெங்களூர் வந்து 2 மாசம் முடிச்சிட்டு இப்போ லீவுக்கு வந்தாங்க. இப்போ லீவ் முடிச்சிட்டு போனோம்னா श्रीनगर போனோம்।
श्रीनगर
31 सफेरी।
जी मेरा 1 महीना छुट्टी आया था, अभी वो श्रीनगर में पोस्टेड है मैडम।
अफसोस की बात यह है कि he was a jawan and he has been killed when he was on a break at his home. पुनीता, आपके लिए इंसाफ क्या होगा?
இந்த மாதிரி சொன்னதுக்கு என்ன நீங்க கோரி சொல்றீங்க?
சட்டப்படியா உங்களுக்கு ஆயுள் தண்டனை கொடுக்க ஒரு நினைவுச்சு
जी मैडम, इन्होंने बता रहा है अभी उसका हस्बैंड को मार किया हुआ है। अभी उनका दो बच्चा छोटा छोटा है, दोनों लड़के है। इसलिए मैं अभी जिंदगी अभी मेरा शुरू है। अभी इसी शुरू वक्त में मेरा हस्बैंड को खत्म कर दिया, मैं कैसे जो पाऊंगा। इसलिए मेरा को स्टेट गवर्नमेंट सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट दोनों मिलके मेरे को मदद मांग रहा है। मतलब जो भी मदद है इनको दोनों गवर्नमेंट मिलकर करना है। और इसने प्रियटी स्टेट गवर्नमेंट तरफ से 1 करोड़ रुपया देना चाहिए। और उसके बाद उसको क्वालिफिकेशन के ऊपर एक स्टेट गवर्नमेंट से तुरंत उसको एक जॉब मिलना चाहिए। और एदस का उसको हस्बैंड को एक वार्ड मेंबर ऐसे बनाने के उसने वादा बताया।
आप सही बोल रही है, जिंदगी आगे कैसे चलेगी, आपके दोनों छोटे बच्चे हैं। पुनीता, क्या बच्चों को पता है कि अब उनके पिता या पापा नहीं रहे, कि क्या हुआ है?
குழந்தைக்கு திரும்ப அப்பா இது மாதிரி ஆச்சுன்னு जी मैडम, वो दोनों छोटा छोटा बच्चा है, एक 2.5 साल का एक 6 महीने का। वो पापा को ऐसे हो गई कि उनको पता नहीं। मतलब फौजी आदमी तो पूरा ड्यूटी में रहता है, छुट्टी में तो साल में 1 बार 2 बार ऐसे आता है। वो ऐसे करके उनको भी पता नहीं चला अभी तक वो क्या हुआ। उतना मतलब छोटा बच्चा है।
वो एक जवान थे, आर्मी में उन्होंने भर्ती ली थी और श्रीनगर में पोस्टिंग थी उनकी। आप पनिशमेंट क्या चाहेंगी? आप, जब हमने आपसे सवाल पूछा इंसाफ क्या होगा, जो जिन लोगों ने उनको इतनी बेरहमी से पीटा है, मारा है, क्या पनिशमेंट होना चाहिए, सजा क्या होनी चाहिए?
ஆயுள் முழுக்க அவங்களுக்கு ஆயுள் தண்டனை கொடுத்து அவங்களுக்கு இனி வரவே கூடாது எந்த ஒரு விஷயத்துக்கும்।
जी मैडम, इनको 10 बंदे ने
இந்த ஊர்ல
मिलके
நாங்க
इनको
கண்டிப்பா
मार
பார்க்கவே
किया
கூடாது।
हुआ है। वो 10 बंदा जिंदगी पूरा जेल में रहना चाहिए, वो बाहर नहीं आना चाहिए करके उनको एक बड़ा पॉइंट है मैडम उनका। इसको पक्का उसको अमल करना पड़ रहा है, क्योंकि इसमें जेल में डाल दिया, ऐसे 2 महीने 3 महीने के बाद बाहर भी आ जाता है। कुछ आदमी 6 महीने तक रहेगा फिर बाहर आ जाएगा, लेकिन जिंदगी पूरा बाहर नहीं आना चाहिए। ऐसे वो लोग को बाहर छोड़ने से ये देश बर्बाद हो जाएगा। या इसका एक लिस्ट बना के मतलब सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट स्टेट गवर्नमेंट में रखना है। ऐसे वाला को बाहर जीने नहीं देना चाहिए, वो जेल में अंदर रहना चाहिए। यही इनका वादा है।
Anita, I can see your son as well. मेरा आखिरी सवाल आपसे ये होगा कि आपने सुना होगा कि डीएमके के नेता का क्या बयान आया है। आप चीफ मिनिस्टर स्टालिन को क्या बोलना चाहेंगी?
तमिलनाडु चीफ मिनिस्टर என்ன பாயிண்ட் பார்க்கணும் வேற பேசணும்।
ஒரு ராணுவ வீரரோட ஃபேமிலி 2 பேரும் ஒரு 2 ராணுவ வீரரும் ஒரு வீட்டுல இருக்கும்போது இவங்களுக்கு ஒரு உயிரிழப்பு ஏற்பட்டுச்சு. அப்பயும் இந்த தமிழ்நாட்டுல இருந்துகிட்டே அவருங்க எங்களை பார்க்க வரல. ஒருவேளை அவங்க உயிரோட இருந்திருந்தா வந்திருப்பாரா? செத்தே பார்க்க வரல. அப்ப எங்களுடைய நிலைமை என்னாச்சு? என் 2 பொண்ணுங்களோட நிலைமை என்னாச்சு? அப்பயும் அப்படியே தான் அவர் இருக்காரு।
ओके, मैं जी मैडम, इन्हें बता रहे तमिलनाडु स्टेट का चीफ मिनिस्टर इनके घर में आके इनसे मिलना चाहिए, क्योंकि वो इतना आदमी आके इनके घर में अंदर आके पूरा को मार किया हुआ है। इसलिए उनसे बात करना डायरेक्ट, इनका जो व्यू पॉइंट है उनसे डायरेक्ट बात करना चाहता है, इसलिए वो मिलना चाहता है।
Punita, I pray that you get strength to deal through this huge loss that you're facing. My condolences, and Prakash ji, thank you so much for helping me communicate with her. Let me bring in my guests and go straight to Pulla Rao, who is a political analyst and also a DMK supporter. Pulla Rao, I have a straight question. Who is answerable to those 2 kids? A 2.5-year-old boy and another 6-month-old boy. The least that your government and the DMK party can do is sack this councillor, and no action has been taken till now.
No, they may take all these actions, and one thing is, yes, we all condemn the death, the murder. It was so unnecessary. The other thing, I would not like to equate a state with a single incident, any state. let it be Tamil Nadu with 80 million people, or Bihar, or Uttar Pradesh, an incident has happened, a very sad incident. It's part of
Mr.
society.
Now, where is the empathy? Here is a Jawan who stands for his nation. He was posted in Srinagar, one of the most difficult regions that a Jawan can get. His posting in. And the death, unfortunately, happens when he is at home over an altercation which is so trivial. But the sheer audacity of this DMK councillor, that he is in his, bastion, that he can kill anybody and get away with it. It's a reflection on the government.
He has got away with it. He has been arrested. All the others have been arrested. It's an incident.
It's tragic, and I'm hoping that connection will be built again with Mr. Pullarao. General Singh, the family claims that Chinnaswamy said that a Jawan has no power in his area. What is this area? Isn't it shocking and shameful? And would you say, as a military veteran, that an example be made of this man?
Myra, firstly, I pay very sincere and heartfelt condolences to Punita ji, and I pray that God gives fortitude to this family. It is a disgraceful act, especially for a person who came from an illustrious family where his brother is also in army and he was serving in Srinagar. So I would feel that there should be action at 3 levels. Firstly, and without any weight, the state, the chief minister needs to send a message. A message down to his cadres, a message down to the entire state, that this kind of act will not be tolerated at all. And that messaging is very, very important. Immediate sacking and taking action cannot be just, it's non-negotiable. The second part is, you have to reach out to the family. You have to empathize.
And that's what Punita said. General Singh, usne yahi bola, that she needs means to run the family, to ensure that her 2 boys go to school. She needs a job. And she wants the chief minister to visit her, to listen to her. Why is it that DMK feels that they can get away with this kind of reaction? Where is that basic sensitivity that is needed?
I agree with you, Myra. I was advisor to Chief Minister of Haryana, and anything like this happened. Firstly, it never happened, but anywhere his instructions to me were that the check has to be given in 24 hours, and you make sure that I go and visit that family. So sensitivity has to be demonstrated. It can't be just wished away. And another thing which is very, very important is that when a person, he was known to this councillor, and then you plan and you get a group of goons and kill this person, that's a very sad reflection on the kind of audacity that is being displayed. I am horrified. I can only say that much. And I thank your channel for keeping focus on this and fighting for justice for this family. Thank you, Myra. And you must continue this mission.
Narayan Tirupati, the DMK councillor has been arrested. Why is the BJP alleging some bigger political conspiracy?
No, see, we are not alleging bigger political conspiracy, because the last 2 years of DMK's rule, the DMK netas, the DMK office bearers, the DMK speakers, they have been instigating and provoking the DMK cadres fight the people who are against them. And this is what has led this incident, this councillor, to go and attack the army man and maybe make him die. This is what has happened. Now, it is not the money alone we expect from the chief minister. It is his party man. It is DMK's party man, party's councillor. He is involved in this. So I think this is the moral responsibility of the chief minister, at least to console the family, to console his wife, and say that whoever it is, we will take action. That he has not done. That is the reason we are condemning the DMK president, Mr. Stalin. Why he is silent? What makes him to be silent? The entire nation is crying for this. But whereas he is very near to the place where this has happened, within an hour he can reach that place. Why you have not gone there? At least why you have not issued a statement? The DMK spokespersons are not coming to the television debates discussing about this, and a DMK spokesperson says that it is a very small issue. What is the small issue? Because of your arrogance, because of your arrogance of the
Narayan Tirupati, I agree with you. Pullarao, of course, the DMK is not participating, and that's why we requested you to join us, because you are a DMK supporter, so you'll be able to reflect what their view is. My question is, and I agree with him, if the Chief Minister is almost just 1 hour away from where this tragedy took place, what is stopping him from visiting this family? And Chinnaswamy has been accused of leading a mob, and he, in fact, killed Prabhu in what is cold-blooded murder. And then Chinnaswamy goes hiding. My question is, what warrants the DMK government dragging its feet? I mean, the entire nation has been outraged. Does the Chief Minister not owe an apology to the country and, of course, firstly, to this family?
I am very sure the Tamil Nadu government will express its condolences. I am very sure they'll extend all kind of help. But everybody knows, including our BJP friend, that at such a moment, if the Chief Minister rushes there, there'll be huge law and order problems.
No, there's no law and order crisis here. When did it happen?
You have to let tempers cool down.
He was assaulted on February 8th. He succumbed to his injuries on February 14th. It's been 48 hours.
No, he has just been arrested. And in all such things, the DGP and others advise everyone, any Chief Minister, you don't go rushing there. You let it cool down. You take care of it. You take care of the mistake.
Condemning the murder.
A petty councillor far away has committed a crime. They've arrested him. It is not to condemn the whole
because he is a party man, he is silent.
No, that is his mode of way of doing things, not from today, for the last 40 years. He behaves in his own style, but the government will extend condolences.
Last
they will
2
take
years,
care of her, I am sure.
The same party man has provoked their cadres to chop off our party president, Mr. Annamalai's hands. The same party man has said that they will send the terrorists to kill, to gun down the governor of Tamil Nadu. The same party man, they have said that even a murder can happen in the Tamil Nadu assembly and there will be no legal case. These party men have definitely instigated, provoked these people. That is the reason the arrogance, the guts to kill somebody has come to the DMK party man. So now it is the duty, moral responsibility of the Chief Minister to calm down, to advise their party.
Okay, I have just 30 seconds for General KJ Singh.
Myra,
General
keep the focus
Singh,
on the story.
you know, it's almost we are speechless. And what we are seeing is this political slugfest.
Immediately go and give solace to the family and demonstrate by contributing to education of the children. That's the minimum he can do, because Tamil Nadu people are brave people and they support our forces. So a Chief Minister should not waste his mandate like this. And let's hope that the family gets the due assistance and the person who's been nabbed is brought to book. He is speedily prosecuted and put behind bars.
I'm sure she will get relief.
Mr. Pullarao, the least that one expects is that the Chief Minister expresses condolences to this family and he visits them, assures all support that the state government can give. It's been 48 hours and counting. There has been not even a single word of empathy that has come from the state government. And all that we have heard so far is that supposed action has been taken. It's brazenness which is at display here in Tamil Nadu. Thank you so much for your time, Narayan Tirupati Pullarao and Lieutenant General KJ Singh. We are slipping into a short break. Coming up, Turkey continues to bear the brunt of the massive earthquake with the death toll over 42,000. 2 teams of the NDRF are returning to India after the success of Operation Dos. Exclusive reports with Siddhant Mishra from the ground after a short break. Stay with us.
It takes into consideration what are the challenges that you are likely to face, and based upon that, I can tell you that we already have 43 ships under construction, out of which 41 are being built in Indian shipyards only, and we have nearly 49 ships. The AON is being processed, and so by about 2035 or so, we anticipate that we'll be about 170 to 175 ship Navy, which will be quite capable of meeting the challenges that we are likely to face.
Our correspondent Akash Sharma, who spoke to the Indian Navy Chief, is joining us. Akash, what is the current situation in the Indian Ocean region?
You see, Indian Ocean region, as Admiral R. Harikumar mentioned, is a challenging, facing challenging situations because, other than the resident forces, it also has 60 to 70 other naval forces. But, talking about this particular interview, Anjali, so, Admiral R. Harikumar mentioned a number of important points. And the first one was that he emphasized on the importance of maintaining peace and stability in the region. Since India is a resident force there, so we keep a track of almost all activities. And he mentioned it categorically that, there is a presence of Chinese naval ships, warships, research vessels, and fishing boats as well. So it was an important point. Other than that, we talk about Atmanirbharta. We know that how Indian government is stressing on Atmanirbharta, and in that context, Admiral R. Harikumar, said this categorically that we are at this point in time, building at least 43 ships, and other than these 43 ships, we are also, in process of signing the AON, which is the acceptance of necessity of 49 other ships. And, going with that statement, by 2035, we'll be having at least 170 to 175 ships. This is what he mentioned. So this was the other important point. So first one is, of course, the peace and, peace and stability in the Indian Ocean region that Indian Navy is focusing on. And the other one is Atmanirbharta. And, going with that program, we are also already building ships and all other things in India.
Right, Akash. Thank you for giving us all those details. Indian Navy Chief Admiral Radhakrishnan Harikumar spoke exclusively to CNN News 18's Akash Sharma about the current challenges and preparedness of Indian Navy in Indian Ocean region. The Admiral emphasized on the importance of maintaining peace and stability in the region, which is crucial for the global economy due to the large amount of traffic passing through it. He also mentioned how there is a presence of a large number of Chinese naval ships, warships, research vessels and fishing boats in the region, and how India, being a resident force, keeps a track of all the activity happening in that particular region. Regarding future plans, he revealed that the Indian Navy has a capabilities development program running and 43 ships are currently under construction, with 41 being built in Indian shipyards. Let's listen into this exclusive interview.
Is about Indian Ocean region. We know about the challenges there. China is trying to dominate the area. If you can throw some light on those challenges and also the future plans of Indian Navy.
The Indian Ocean is a very complex area because there is it's very important for almost the entire world because so much of traffic flows through it, maritime traffic. There is trade which flows through the region. It is important not only for us, it's important for the rest of the world as well. So therefore, while we are the largest navy, the resident navy in the region, we have to ensure that there is peace and stability because the oceans are the global commons. At any point of time, there are about 65 to 70 extra regional navies operating in this region. So it's our we as the resident naval power in this region, we keep track of all the activities that are happening. There are Chinese naval ships also operating. There are Chinese warships. There are Chinese research vessels, Chinese fishing boats in large numbers, and the prosperity at sea is dependent upon peace, tranquility, our ability to use the oceans in a free, open, and in compliance with the rule of law and so on. So that is what we try to achieve, and it is something which cannot be achieved just by one Navy alone. It has to be done in cooperation and collaboration as well as coordination with all the navies in the region. So we have our outreach program, we have our activities along with the friendly foreign countries in the region. We help them, we interact with them, we train them, we facilitate capacity building, we strengthen their hands, we have multilateral exercises, all that goes on.
Also about the future plans of Indian Navy.
Future plans, we have a capability development program which takes into consideration what are the challenges that we are likely to face, and based upon that I can tell you that we already have 43 ships under construction, out of which 41 are being built in Indian shipyards only, and we have nearly 49 ships the AON is being processed, and so by about 2035 or so, we anticipate that we'll be about 170 to 175 ship Navy, which will be quite capable of meeting the challenges that we are likely to face.
Well, right now we are reporting from Adana Airport, and 2 NDRF teams are returning to India today after the success of Operation Dost, after successfully rescuing 2 children from the debris and after performing at par with the other international agencies. 2 Indian teams are returning today. 1 NDRF team is going to stay in Antakya, the worst affected area, and 1 other team of Indian Army, 60 parafield hospitals, also going to stay in Turkey till Sunday. But right now we are at a canteen in Adana Airport, and you can see that the Jawans are chilling here. They are enjoying special Turkey tea with snacks, and in fact they are chilling because after almost working for a week, they are going back to their country after generating a lot of goodwill, after generating a lot of good name for India. They are going back. In fact, the government here has made special arrangements to welcome Indian teams at the airport. In fact, the senior guys from NDRF are here. We'll speak to them. So, one reaction. How was the experience?
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
And, we did our best here.
Yeah.
And
Namaste and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. I'm Anand Narsimhan. Ladies and gentlemen, we will start this evening with the story of an army man who's been beaten to death. Is the death of an army man a small issue? What happened in the Krishnagiri region of Tamil Nadu is unfortunate. At least 9 people have been arrested for the assault on and death of a 33-year-old soldier who had come back home on a break for a month. An argument about washing clothes near a well, we are given to understand, led to an altercation that not only went out of hand but resulted in the stabbing and lynching of the now deceased 33